Steve Kerr, nice enough to join us here on 95.7 The Game, brought to you by Xfinity. Stay connected, protected, and entertained. Steve, thank you for joining us. As always, really appreciate your time. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. I was just saying Indiana's got a Bethune-Cookman game tonight, so I'm feeling frisky. I'm so happy that basketball is back. I was just making the argument that I'm starting to consider maybe a little room for myself on the Sacramento Kings bandwagon. Like I like what I see early from that team. I'm guessing you're pretty impressed with what you saw from them just the other night yourself.
Yeah, they're a good team. They spread you out. They've got a lot of good shooters. They've got De'Aaron Fox coming downhill at you, which is not easy, and Mike's doing a great job with them. They're playing with a lot of energy and spirit, and they're getting after it. So a big win for them last night against Cleveland.
It was. Maybe they even softened up the Cavaliers a little bit for you since you got them in town tomorrow night. Anything that happens on Monday is in the news cycle we all live in now, old news on a Thursday afternoon. But I tell you, it felt like that win against the Kings, punctuated by the Curry, Draymond end-of-game embrace. Like, those two guys usually only hug it out like that after they advance around in the postseason. I don't even have to ask you. Like, that reaction from those two veterans alone let me know that was a big win.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose 5 in a row, you need to win. And we were in this space last year too. In March, I think we lost 6 in a row at one point, and we played Houston, and Steph hit the game-winning shot at the buzzer, and we celebrated like it was the finals. And there's a reason for that. I mean, you get to these points during the season where you're struggling, and when that happens and you're in a little bit of a rut, everything just seems so difficult. And in my experience, what eventually happens if you've got a good team, which I believe we do, then you clean up your mistakes, and all of a sudden the game feels easier, and you start taking care of business, and it doesn't seem nearly as difficult. But while you're in it, like we have been, everything's tough.
The way you used your players against Sacramento sort of indicated how desperately you wanted that game. Was that something that they needed more than you needed more than them? Could you see things starting to spiral out of control if you didn't get that game?
Well, I mean, we got 71. We were going to have 71 games left regardless.
Yeah.
It's like, spiraling out of control. Like, we weren't going to, the season wasn't over or anything, but there definitely was a sense of desperation. You saw it, I think, at the beginning of the second half. We started small, and just watching the game on tape later, the defensive effort to start the third quarter was just dramatically better than what we saw in the first half. And so you get that sort of desperation, and everybody's playing hard, and yeah, I'm going to make a substitution pattern that that gives us the best opportunity to win that particular game, and then you just move on to the next one, and that's all part of navigating the season.
I hereby apologize for spiraling out of control. That said, given the fact that you saw the defensive energy and sort of foresight that you had been looking for the previous 5 games, are you more likely to maybe use, your starters less, or do you need to sort of reinforce that message even more, in the few games coming ahead?
I mean, no matter what happens, we know the areas we have to improve in, and that's what we're looking for from every group. Our starting group has been great. I think they're still the number one 5-man combination in the league, but we just haven't been able to sustain the effort. We've had a lot of different combinations. We haven't really found a consistent pattern, and that's just that's been the issue. But in order to find that pattern, you got to look at the details. Are we going to continue to be last in the league in fouls and sending teams to the line? Are we going to give up transition hoops? Are we going to turn it over? We always talk about, taking away the easy points from the other team, and we just haven't done that at all. And so regardless of the combinations, we've got to button up. We got to tighten up our game.
Warriors head coach Steve Kerr with us here on Damon and Ratto. So with defensive concerns rising above all others right now, has this abnormal NBA week been a little bit of a friend to you? 3 consecutive days off at home, did it give you a chance to sort of install a mini defensive training camp here about 11 games into your season?
It's been great. I mean, this might happen once or twice a year where you get a day off to clear your mind, which we had on, I guess it was Monday, and then two straight days of practice. Or maybe I'm a day behind. I guess the day off was Tuesday, and then we've had 2 great days of practice since. And then a game the following day. So it does feel almost like a mini training camp, and you get to really lock in on the stuff that you're working on. So we got great work in the last couple of days. I feel really good about, just our preparation, and hopefully it pays off tomorrow night.
Is it film study? Is it drilling? Is it on-court 3-on-3 just defensive principle techniques that you work on? Can you take us through a day or two of practice and tell us how you're coaching your team through this?
Yeah, so, yesterday we did not have film. We felt like it was a good day to get away from that. But we went through 3 or 4 really important defensive segments, touching on our keys, our defensive keys. And then we had a good scrimmage where the guys got up and down the floor and were able to implement all that stuff. And the young guys, they got an extra scrimmage in. The players who didn't play as much over the previous couple games, so they got a lot of action in. Got a ton of shooting. That was yesterday, and then today we came in and watched the film from the Sacramento game and really emphasized the positives of what we're trying to do, and then shorter practice today, but still hitting on all the details of defending without fouling and transition defense and all the stuff that we're really trying to emphasize.
Is there a way to know if the things you're showing them is getting through without seeing a game? Is that the only way to know if this is working? Or could you see things in the last 2 days that indicate to you that maybe some light bulbs are going on?
Well, you can see it. You can see it in the scrimmages, and then you know it has to translate for it to matter. So it's got to translate to the games. So we'll see tomorrow night.
Did Lute ever run a practice without a basketball? And could you even do that in the NBA?
No. Is that a Bobby Knight thing?
That's a Bobby Knight thing. Yes. When there was no ball rack at practice, you knew it was going to be a long afternoon.
Bad sign.
You talk about new signs. You talked about Anthony Lamb being 24, Ty Jerome 25. Both still young in their lives, but older in your basketball eyes because of their 4-year-long collegiate careers. Has the word veteran been redefined a little bit for you this year?
Well, every roster is different. Last year we had a much older team overall, with Otto and Gary and Belly. Those guys were 29, 30, I think Belly 33, 34. And those were and Damian Lee, Juan, both, key guys in our bench rotation. Also, I think Dame is 30, Juan 26, 27, something like that. So that was last year. This year we've got 5 guys or so, 22 or under. So it's different. So, it all is in context. So comparatively speaking, Ty and Anthony are vets compared to our younger guys this year.
Have you found that the disparity is more jarring than you thought it might have been during the preseason, or do you ever make sort of judgments about, are we old enough in the second unit? Is that something that usually comes up, or no?
No, you what you do is you assess your team and you make decisions, sort of game by game, week by week, and you figure out what each player needs, what your team needs, and you go from there. You don't spend a whole lot of time thinking about anything other than how you can get the most out of this team, and so that's what we're doing. And like I said, I'm really confident in the group. We got 71 games left. Our younger guys are working really hard, and they're gonna get better and better. And we are lucky to have a couple of really good two-way players in Anthony and Ty, who are experienced and much further along in terms of development than our younger guys. So if we need them to help us win some games, then we're going to play them, and that's the whole point.
So every host on the radio just spitballs ideas. What could be an instant fix? What could help this team through? None of these are permanent moves, just temporary moves. Would you please weigh in on what you think is more or less crazy or in the realm of possibility? Would it be a possibility in your mind to just look at Steph and say, hey, man, we were really hoping that the young guys could carry some of our older guys through this season, but it's not starting out like that. So we are good. We just 38, 40 minutes a night until it gets better elsewhere, Steph. We're going to ask you to do that. Is that crazy?
Yeah, 38, 40 a night is not going to happen. 38 when we have 3 days before the next game, no problem. So we will get through the season with a plan through the performance team regarding minutes. I mean, we lost 4 in a row and then gave Steph a night off last week for a reason. You plan this stuff out, and you can't veer from the plan because you really need a win. But if you need to play a guy, Steph or Draymond or Klay, extra minutes on a night where you have a few nights off after that, then that's a different deal. You
can tell me, you can say, Damon, it's a cockamamie idea. If it is, has there been any consideration to maybe hiding Jordan Poole a little bit in the starting five and asking Klay to make the sacrifice to be the leader of the second unit that Jordan is struggling to lead right now? Would that be in the realm of possibility?
No, that's not something I've given any thought to. Jordan and Klay are very different players. Jordan's more on the ball, Klay's off the ball. I think with our, when Steph is off the floor, we absolutely have to have Jordan on the floor. Doesn't mean we can't change combinations and rotations to get certain guys, on the court together. But Klay is a starter, and that 5-man unit is the very best unit in the league. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me to break up that unit. What we really need to do is tighten up the areas that we've been weak in. And if we do that, then I have a lot of confidence that we'll get back on the right track.
You don't like my ideas, do you, Steve?
Occasionally you come up with a good one.
But neither of these.
Neither of those.
Yeah, not those.
Okay.
Not those.
How, other than the fact that they've added Donovan Mitchell, what is different about Cleveland this year that maybe you didn't see last year?
I just think experience. They're a team that's on the rise. That's pretty obvious. So when you look at Mobley and Allen and Garland, they're kind of their core young group. They're a year better, and they got a taste of the play-in last year. Lost their 2 games. They're coming in with a hunger and still a lot of room for growth because of the youth. And JB Bickerstaff does a great job. They've got some vets coming off the bench who are doing a good job for them. They just have a nice balance, and then Mitchell has given them kind of that star power that they lack, and that I think the confidence, coming from a guy who's been, an all-star, a playoff performer. They've really put together a good roster.
Steph talked, Steve, about how difficult it is to not press or hunt your shot when you're definitely pressing and hunting shots, and it's a balancing act, and you don't want to be hesitant. You want to make the right choice, but you also want to be, in your instincts all at the same time. He said you have to be really intentional about letting the game come to you. How difficult is that for a veteran to do, much less your young guys who are trying to struggle, and find their own identities in this league right now?
Well, every player's different, so you just you watch the film and you help that player every day, and some guys it may be an issue, other guys there's no problem there. I think for when you're as good as Steph is, you feel like you could score every time down the floor. That probably is a bigger issue than if you're a role player. If you're Kevon Looney, you don't really have that same issue, because you kind of know exactly what your role is and what you're trying to accomplish.
How hard is it for a young guy to get a coach DNP out of nowhere, or is that something you maybe talk about with Wiseman before the game even begins?
No, I communicate with every player, before games. They know if they're going to be in the rotation or not. They also know that if they're not in the rotation, that doesn't mean they're not going to play. The game can change everything based on circumstances, and you might go in a completely different direction. So that's all communicated. That's all part of coaching.
When you have a specific idea, and this is just a hypothetical, when you have a specific idea about how you are going to use a guy, how many games do you need to see to find out whether it's worked or not? Is one sufficient? Do you need 3? Is there any set number?
No, it's not a set number, and again, it's always with the team in mind. So, if you make some changes to the rotation and the team starts winning, then you stay with it. And you make some changes and things aren't going well, you're going to make some more changes. So everything is fluid in the NBA, and you just try to decide the best course of action as you go.
As you said, time and time again, you're still looking for answers and combinations of players that are going to work for you coming off of your bench. Is there a group of guys that maybe haven't shown it statistically to you, but you are interested in seeing more of them, even though the results aren't quite there, instantly? Is there a combination that you like, even though it hasn't produced the numbers that you like?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that's going to happen here soon is that Jordan and Klay are going to kick it into gear. Neither guy has gotten off to a good start. So that's the main thing, is that, as those guys who we know are great players, champions, guys who have done it at the highest level, when they get going, it changes everything. It changes the combinations. It changes, how guys need to play around them. The game gets easier for everyone when your best players are playing well. So I think that's what's going to happen. Is the game will start to smooth out for the whole group. As Jordan and Klay in particular, those two really get things rolling.
2 more roster questions, and then we'll thank you so much for your time. Dante DiVincenzo back tomorrow night by a lot of indications. How might he help smooth things out? And can you give us an update on Andre Iguodala, please?
Yeah, Dante is supposed to play tomorrow. He scrimmaged yesterday. He felt great this morning. And, he's a big help for Jordan. I think the two of them have formed a really good combination. In the early season before Dante got hurt, Dante gives you another playmaker, can get Jordan off the ball. He just does a lot of things. He makes a lot happen. He gets loose balls, long rebounds. That tends to free up, open shooters off of a broken play. So those are all areas where Dante can help us, and I'm excited to see him play tomorrow night. And Andre, we're going to continue to take it really slowly with Andre, even though he's doing more work. He's not going to play anytime soon. We're really gearing up for Andre to be good for the long haul, not here in the early parts of the season.
Well, he tweeted so cryptically 7 days, but I don't even know what to believe on Twitter or social media anymore. It's a weird world that we're living in now, Steve, in case you didn't notice.
I hadn't noticed at all.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being a not weird, stabilizing presence that gives confidence to the Warriors. Tomorrow night should be a really fun game. Thank you so much for your time, as always.
My pleasure. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Steve Kerr here on 95.7 The Game.